Hello, I am Boris Kaykov and welcome to the Kaykov's Podcast. Here we have a very special guest, Ruben Izgelov, co-founder and managing partner of WeLand. Mr. Ruben, a few words from you.
Well, I appreciate being here, Boris. It's been a long time coming. I know you and I have been planning to put this together, and finally we saw each other at Jewel Park on 73rd Avenue, minutes away from each other's home, where we said, okay, Thursday is the day, today is the day, and here we are. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Very nice. So let's talk about WeLand. How did it all start with the whole WeLand corporation?
Well, I think a lot of it, obviously, of course, everything with it is from Shemayim, with God's help. But the way in which it really kind of came about, you can say, is I was actually in law school. It was probably like my last semester where I was preparing to start studying for the bar exam, which I was dreading, and very fearful and intimidating part of life. But nevertheless, I got a call. I got a call from a conference that was specially made for private lenders, institutions, hedge funds, private equity, private credit funds. And they called us and said, look, they called me and they said, look, we see that you're a real estate investor. You're buying, selling, flipping, developing. That's what I was doing.
You've been doing that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we were buying, selling, flipping, developing real estate for many years. While in law school, we were developing throughout Brooklyn, predominantly Bushwick, Bed-Stuy. And I got this call from, at that time, it was Leonard Rosen. He's now retired. And it was called the Pitbull Conference. And he called me and said, look, I want you to come to this conference because we see that you're an active real estate investor. You need to get a cheaper source of capital for the deals that you were doing, so you might as well come. I said, you know what? Why not? I'm just about to start studying for the bar exam. I know how dreadful it would be. So I said, let's go out there and fly out to Arizona. They do conferences in every part of the states, of the United States. So we flew out to Arizona. We went into this conference as private investors, private developers, and we walked out as private lenders. We've never looked back since. Since then, fortunately enough, we've actually lent out probably right around $700 million across about 1,500 loans. Amazing. Nationwide. Most of what we do is in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, which is our backyard. But we've never looked back since. We are super grateful for what we're doing. It's all came from Shemayim. I know you and I were talking about this earlier as well. It's like, Ruben, you went to law school. You're an attorney.
You went to law school. You're an attorney, and then you decided to shift a little bit and do private lending.
I did. And while I was in law school, I really thought I was going to be the best attorney out there. I thought that I was going to do either personal injury, real estate transactions, corporate litigation. I like to speak. My wife always says you talk too much, but nevertheless, I like to speak. So I thought litigation might be my thing. And I worked for a law firm for about 2 weeks, and I decided it's not for me. This is while going to law school, taking on all the student loans. I mean, I had to go to St. John's, graduate, top of my class there. Went to law school, graduated top of my class there. I mean, I dedicated 10 years of my life to education because I thought I was going to be an attorney. But, although I don't practice today.
Do you feel like it's important?
I would do it all over again. I would do it all over again. And I think a lot of people today, with the implementation of AI, maybe they could be right. But I think there's a lot of value in going to school. I think look, personally, I have a coach for what I do, right? And a coach provides insight and intellect and guidance because they've been there, done that. I feel that professors, teachers in school can do the same thing for students, right? For younger generations. They provide you the guidance. They prepare you for the real world, right? So I think school in general is important. It may not be for everyone, and I think a lot of kids feel that way. In fact, I don't know, many people may not know this, but I dropped out of high school, right?
No way.
And I thought school was not for me. I dropped out of high school.
You dropped off from high school?
Yeah, believe it or not. Literally the day I turned 16, I think 2 days after I turned 16, right around Shabbat or something like that, and Monday I went in and I withdrew myself. And the only reason why I did is because I had that same mentality that many kids have today. It's like, oh, school is not for me. I can do without it. And I did. I did well, right? I was doing mortgages. I was a loan originator in 2006, 7, 8 time. And that time I was making about $150,000 a year.
Wow.
In today's market, in today's day, that's probably right around like $300,000 a year, right? Yeah. So I was doing really well for myself during my teenage life.
But you hustled, I'm sure.
I busted my butt, right? And, we still do till this day. But I felt like that's going to last forever. And then the great financial crisis hit. right? And I got punched in the face, just like Mike Tyson says. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. I got punched in the face, and my father sat me down and said, "Look, Ruben, you're clearly done well. You've proved to yourself and to us that you can survive in the world of business. But business has fluctuations, just like anything else, right? There's ups and downs,
Always.
ups and downs. You are not really earning what you were earning before. But had you had a family, you would be in a really tight position.
Yes.
Without an education, you're doing well, but boom, you start hitting a downturn, right? What are you going to do to support your family?" So then and there, and on the kitchen table, on Queens Boulevard, that's where we lived at the time, I had to give him a man's word. And with my father, a man's word is everything, that I was going to go back to school. Once I gave him the word, he said, "But son, you got to understand one thing. Going to school and just getting your bachelor's degree means nothing in this world, right? Or an associate degree."
Today, especially.
That's what I thought I was going to do. I was like, I'm going to, walk my way out of this by just getting an associate degree. He said, "You got to give me your word that you're going to go all the way. You're either a doctor or a lawyer. There's no in between." So I had to give him a word that I was either a doctor or a lawyer, but I couldn't decide what I was going to do, right? I didn't know if I was a doctor or a lawyer, but thankfully that was very easily decided once I was able to see my cousin's notes, who was in pharmacy school at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She was in the cafeteria of St. John's University where I attended, and I said, "Let me just see your notes." And I opened up her notebook, and I couldn't pronounce 95% of the words that were on it because it's all Latin, and it's like 500 syllables in one word.
Wow.
There's no way to pronounce that, right? So I said, all right, clearly medicine, pharmacy is not for me. I'm going to law. And thank God, I would never, ever look back. I'm truly grateful for the fact that I went to law school. Although I don't practice today, right? I would go to law school all over again. And the only reason why is because I feel like it prepared me for the world of business. Today, anywhere I walk in, and as soon as people find out that I'm an attorney, it completely changes their mindset and
100%.
perception of me.
Absolutely, I agree.
And I think it also helps me in business because today, in WeLand, we're managing over $100 million today, right? And being able to see the downside before you're seeing the upside in everything you do helps you protect the upside, right? Being able to identify what can go wrong versus what can go right helps you protect what will go right, right? And I think that is very important. I think law school prepares you for that. So any of the kids out there who are considering whether law school or school is for them or not, I can tell you from my personal experience, it definitely is.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
So you see, today we have YouTube where people can just open
YouTube
up any
University,
channel.
yeah.
YouTube University, exactly. They can just look through a bunch of various things there and consider themselves a pro and learning that whole process.
Yeah.
But you think becoming a lawyer, like I was speaking to my son, I'm like, listen,
The son that I met at the park, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want you to go to school. I want you to finish. But, realistically speaking, look at all of these multi-billionaires that are there. None of them are lawyers, nor there are doctors, but they did go to college and
they have an education.
They have some sort of an education that they finished and they applied. I'm sure, like yourself, they applied certain things towards their business to make it successful.
Right.
Correct?
Right, of course.
So I definitely do agree. Going into school is very important, but for some people it's really hard.
Yeah.
How can you motivate yourself to go to school?
Look, for me, it was just I presented it to myself and I pitched it to myself where there's no other option. This is it. There's nothing else, right? Once I'm done, I'm done. I move past it. I never look back. Today, it's been almost 10 years, I think, since I graduated, right? I mean, it's been a lifetime. All the hardships that I went through during law school, it's just a distant memory, right? So I think if you can create a mindset of there is no other option, then I think it just makes it much easier, especially for the kids and a generation that have a lot of what you and I probably didn't have, right? While I was in, St. John's or in law school, I had
which law school did you go to?
Thorough Law School.
Okay.
They gave me a lot of money, so it made it worth my while. But nevertheless, and a great law school. I mean, they have a synagogue there. They're observant of all the Jewish holidays, although I wasn't really observant at the time. But they were very, very accommodating to Jewish people. So, I think that a lot of the generation today, a lot of what they take for granted is the opportunities that we as parents provide for them, right? While I was in, undergrad and in grad school, I had to bust my ass and work, right? I was working probably 15-hour days, right? While going to law school, I was sleeping maybe 3-4 hours a day. And I think today, I don't know about your son, but I feel that a lot of the other kids here, they have a lot for them, right? They don't have to pay rent. They don't have to pay a mortgage. They don't have to pay for their car, right?
Silver platter.
Dude, they get money given to them every single day. They just have so many other opportunities that we did not, that I
agree.
think that for them not to go to school is just a disservice for all the, I can say, concessions that we, well, not me personally, but our parents have made coming to America, right? I was telling you this earlier. I was in the Banya yesterday, and we were just talking about the immigration to the U.S., and all the things that they had to go through. And one of the guys that was in the sauna with me yesterday, he said, Ruben, it's like, you could imagine you leaving today. You're an established guy here in America. You have an education. You have an amazing business. You have all the connections you need. Imagine you have to drop everything right now and fly over to China and live there. Can you imagine what it's like? And that's what our parents did for our sake, for us to be able to get an education. And yet some of the kids here today, they take that for granted. And I think that's very upsetting. This Shabbat, I was talking to a young kid. He's probably like 17, 18 years old. He just dropped out as well. And he's like, I'm not going to school. And I was trying to convince him. I was doing my whole thing. And he made a very good point. I'm not going to disagree with him there. He said, Ruben, AI is coming. It's going to disrupt everything. What do we do then? It's a good point. We don't know what AI is going to do. But I'm not going to bet on AI disrupting the legal space or other spaces, medical space, what have you, because eventually that's going to become regulated to a certain degree, right? Where lawyers are still going to be necessary.
In the front line.
Exactly. It's going to be supplemental to what an attorney does. It's not going to be an end-all and be-all. So I think that, education, I'm a big proponent of it because I went through it and I would do it all over again, although I don't practice, is very important. Very important.
What industries do you think will be obsolete in the next 10 years?
It's a good question. It's hard to tell. I think look, personally, although I don't practice every single day as an attorney, that's not my real profession, I am still kind of reviewing all the documents that are coming into WeLand, right? All the warehouse lines, credit facilities that we have with our banks, all the note sales that we do. I review the documents. Some of these documents are 70 pages. Some of these documents are 270 pages, right? I review every single one of them with a tooth and nail. But I got to tell you, AI has helped in that review process.
Of course.
But I am still the one, and there's a lot of things that AI is missing, right? That I caught on that AI is missing. So
they imperfected it. It's not there 100%.
It's not there just yet, and I don't know if we can actually truly trust the process in the future. Although I've invested into some companies that are AI related, I see there's going to be a lot of potential with it. I just don't know exactly what's going to be obsolete, because the same could have been said during the Industrial Revolution, right? Everyone was thinking, shoot, we're going to be out of jobs, right? When cars were implemented, everyone was thinking, well, how are we going to live, right? But yet, all the technology advancements, it just helped us become better business people. It just helped us become better people in general.
100%.
It advanced our medicine, advanced everything. So I feel like AI, it's not going to be, it'll disrupt some industries. It will replace some people, but I think it will also create a lot more jobs and opportunities.
Depending on which part of the sector, but what companies, which do you feel are going to be obsolete?
Look,
I'm not going to say.
We're implementing a lot of AI in our industry.
So am
right?
I.
I think it's very important. I think in your space it's very important, right? Social media marketing, videography, I think it's very important. I think that for us as private lenders, I can't talk about other industries, we see it completely disrupting our space, right? I'm pretty sure there's going to be some big wigs that are going to put billions of dollars, just like they've already have, that are going to try to disrupt our industry. So we being, the owners and operators of the business, we have to start implementing AI,
Absolutely.
right? And if you're not going to be implementing AI, then you're just going to be behind the ball, and that ball is going to end up crushing you because it's going to end up catching up to you. So I think it's very important to start implementing AI. I think it's very important to be cognizant of where we are and where it's going, and just be ahead of the ball versus behind it.
I agree with that, but you never answered, but it's okay. We're going to move on. We're going to move on. It's all right. It is what it is. So what do you think the biggest challenge was? I mean, you said you've been doing it from the beginning of time, but what was the biggest challenges that you had to go through with WeLand?
Yeah.
Not including already the school that you finished.
Yeah. I'll tell you the biggest challenge was not knowing the debt space, right? We were equity players. We were buying, selling, flipping, developing real estate. We were making equity returns, right? And I think for us, when we entered the debt space, one of the biggest challenges was trying to understand the space, right? Trying to learn it. We had to learn it from the ground up. Me, my partners, Moses and Solomon, we had no experience with hedge funds, private debt funds, private equity funds.
I mean, you learned all of these things as you went.
Exactly.
Same thing in my business.
Versus a lot of the groups out there who are the elephants and the giants in the room, they all had some kind of finance background. They all had a lot of institutions backing them. In the early on of WeLand, the only backer was ourselves, right? It's whatever finances we were able to put together and whatever relationships we were able to develop. Eventually, having to learn all that was the hardest thing, right? Having put all that together was the hardest thing. Today, I don't want to say that we're running, right? We're still, I would say, walking, but we're no longer crawling, right? At some point, we were crawling. Now we're walking. I think probably next 2 or 3 years with some of the deals that is pending on my table, we'll probably be running. The biggest attraction for us right now is, as you know, Boris, we're raising a lot of money from the community, right? A lot of my friends and family have trusted us with their hard-earned money, right? And that is great, but it's also expensive money, right? And the way in which we've structured WeLand was to make sure that we are, and I say this to, very casually, an American established company. We're not doing it the Baharian way, right?
You have to.
We have
to be a system in place.
Yes. And a lot of times with my investors who are my dear friends, childhood friends, I mean, I know them since 6, 7, 8 years old, or my neighbors, our kids play with their kids. When they invest, like, Ruben, why are you complicating? Why do I have to sign 100 documents? And why are you sending me 1,000 pieces of documents? And the answer is because eventually I want to be able to attract institutional money. For me to be able to survive in this space, now we have this new anomaly, which is AI. I have to start implementing AI. Absolutely. But one of the things that I knew from day one that I have to attract is institutional money, right? These are the major bigwigs, BlackRock, Blackstone, Goldman Sachs, alike, to be able to back us for us to continue making the loans that we did today. Today, the loans that we've done across 700 million, 1,400 loans, it was mainly through our money, through our friends and family, and some very strategical partnerships that we made with some larger private credit funds who have been amazing to us, and we've been obviously amazing to them because our performance is just impeccable. So I think that for us, moving forward, the biggest challenge would be to attract institutional money. We have some very good offers on the table today from some very big wigs, some, I would say, household names when it comes down to private credit funds. And it's just a matter of putting those deals together because they get very, very complicated. And that's where the law degree comes in, right? That education.
That's
look, there are times where I'm working. My wife hates this, but I work 14, 15, 20-hour days, right? I wouldn't be able to do that without having the experience of doing that through law school, right? In law school, when you're studying for the finals, when you're studying for the bar, I mean, during a bar exam, I was sleeping 2-3 hours a day. You can't build that stamina overnight. That has to come from somewhere. And I think that going to school, having to present in front of people in undergrad, right, or in high school, I'm sure you had to present in front of your other fellow students, 30, 40 people watching you. You're nervous as hell, but guess what? That prepares you for the big leagues, right?
I'm still nervous now.
I am too, but it becomes easier. Today, I present in front of 1,000 people, and there's a little bug in the stomach right at that time, but at the same time, I'm comfortable. I'm okay with it. Whereas if you ask me to do that without any experience and get in front of a stage with 1,000 eyes, 2,000 eyes staring at you, it's intimidating. So I think that, law school or school in general is very, very helpful in preparing and setting the foundation for the future of business.
Wow. That's amazing.
You guys are also doing a lot of amazing things.
I mean, we're, dabbling here and there, trying to innovate.
Beyond dabbling at this point.
It is what I know. I did not go to college myself. Right. I finished high school, and that was it. My mom would bug me here and there, when you're going to start. And I started my design journey. And then I wasn't making a lot of money, but I really enjoyed what I was doing. I found the passion.
You can tell that you guys love what you're doing.
I love it. I enjoy it. I can probably sleep here all day, every day until my wife calls me.
Place to sleep in. Very cozy.
How do you manage your time between, like you said, you do 15, 20 hours a day. How does that with the family?
Yeah, it's not easy. I used to do a lot of 15, 20-hour days. I don't really do them anymore. Today, my days are more or less like 10 to 12 hours. It's not the 9 to 5, 8 hours a day, but I usually start late. So I have the ability, to take my kids to school, right?
Of course. Listen, you already established yourself in a way where you can start a little later.
We have almost 50 people working, right? So we have a lot of foundation that's laid.
Beautiful.
I'm a little OCD. I create manuals to everything, step-by-step processes to everything. So tomorrow, if someone did something wrong, my first question to them is, you clearly did not follow the manual, right? And I think that is very helpful because people know exactly what they need to do if and when something happens. We have scenarios and situations. If this happens, you got to do this. If that happens, you got to do that. It's not bulletproof. So as a result, I still have to work 10, 12-hour days, but it's very helpful. So fortunately for me, I wake up, I'm an early bird. Some of my friends hate me for that, right? Because they usually go out by 9 o'clock to have dinner. I'm like already ready to go to sleep
really?
at that time.
So regularly you go to sleep early?
I usually go to sleep, I would say around 10 o'clock,
Nice.
10:30, 11, unless it's a birthday, a wedding, or something like that.
Right.
Or,
And that happens pretty often.
in our community, it happens every single day, especially when you're so involved in the community. So I think for me, I have the ability to, the moment I wake up, I start working. The first thing I do is, of course, say Madani, right? It's the moment when I wake up, is I say thank you to Hashem for everything, for being able to give me back my soul. But aside from that, first thing I do after that is I open up my emails right away. I'm already responding to emails while in bed, right? I go to shul. While in shul, my rabbi hates me, Rabbi Hiai. We always make sure to oversee it at House of Torah. Don't use your phone. But I'm on my phone.
It's hard. I have the same problem.
I'm responding to emails. I'm responding to that. So things are already in motion starting 6 o'clock in the morning, right? I take my kids to school. While I'm taking my kids to school, my kids don't really like it, but I'm on the phone, right? And it's 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning. I'm already on the phone, talking to my partners, talking to my colleagues and stuff like that. So I think just being able to have the advancement of technology, it's no longer the fact that you have to be in the office to work 10 to 12-hour days.
You just have to be involved.
Exactly. On the way here to do this podcast, I had 2 Zoom calls, right? And I was able to progress my business while on the way here.
Absolutely.
And it was a 20-minute drive. So 2 Zoom calls where my colleagues were on the phone, my investor relations, was on the phone to be able to then work on what was necessary following those Zoom calls. So I think today it's a little bit of a different playing field, but being able to manage it is a little easier than it was before.
I hear you. I know it's been 3-4 years since your father has passed.
Yeah.
How many years was it?
It's going on to 4 years.
It's going on to 4 years. Mine's going on to 3. Both of us.
Yeah, we
lost
kind of
our
experienced
fathers.
it right around the same time. Yeah, I remember that.
So I know
Very
that you
unfortunate.
listen. I guess it's from up there for us to be closer to Hashem.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I think that you became close. I don't think you were observant even at all.
No, I didn't
beforehand.
hold Shabbat. I didn't observe Shabbat at all. I even remember because I live, I'm sure that a lot of listeners are from the community, right? So I live down the block from Rabbi Nasidov's shul, right? And, I remember my wife and we would be taking the kids to the beach on Saturday while all my
Everyone
friends...
will go to
Yes, they're walking to shul, and I'm packing my car on Saturday, and I look back, I'm like, I can't believe I used to do that. But nevertheless, yeah, I wasn't religious. I put on my tefillin. I felt like I did, the world a service by doing that. But today, thankfully, with the help of all our leaders in House of Torah, I've developed a bit more when it comes down to religion. I'm a lot more observant, not a bit more, a lot more observant than I was before. I keep Shabbat, which to me was like
it was hard.
The hardest thing in the world. The first 4 Shabbats, I kept it in merit of my dad. I made him I didn't make him a promise, but I made a promise once he passed away to say, okay, you know what, in his merit, I'm going to keep Shabbat. And the first 4 Shabbats were in his merit. But what happened was I fell in love. I was like, shoot, I disconnect from the world.
I love it.
I get to see my kids. I'm with them. We're not watching TV. I'm not on my phone while they're talking to me. I'm not taking any business calls, Zoom calls, or what have you.
Correct.
Not responding to emails with essay-long responses, right? I am focused on my kids. I'm focused on my wife. I think it has helped me in so many different ways. And I think some of the hardest things is like, for us today is we see our successes and other people's successes and you're like, oh, he did it. It's not us, right? I think one of the biggest challenges, you got to remind yourself that it's not you. It's really Hashem.
100%.
You're just a puppet in this world. So that has helped me a lot. I don't know, Boris, what age were you when you first said, I love you, Hashem? I'm just curious. How old were you when you first said that?
Honestly, when you really begin to understand even like this is actually all from Hashem, and I've had moments in life where what, if it wasn't for him. So I had a little incident maybe 6-7 years ago, and I said, God, please, if this comes through all nice, I'm gonna take something upon myself.
Imeish, basically, right?
Imeish. And then from that day on, I was putting on my tzitzit, and I haven't taken it off at all. So that was, if I say something, I have to follow through. There are times, when my clients ask me, Boris, can you do this by this day? I say, I'm going to try. I don't want to promise you, but I will definitely try I cannot say 100%. I cannot promise nothing these days.
Especially with all the holidays that we have.
Of course. You can do your best, but here I made a promise to keep. And I think a man's word is very important. Even in our Torah, it says, once you say something,
you got to keep it.
You have to keep it.
So I was 35 years old when I said, during the prayer of Amidah, I was at the end of it, and it was at 35 years old when I first realized that I never said, I love you, Hashem.
Wow.
I never said, thank you, Hashem. At 35 years old. I say that with a lot of passion. And at that moment, I realized I was I can't say a bad Jew, but I wasn't the best Jew there is, right? And at 35 years old was the first time I said, I love you, Hashem. At 35 years old was the first time I said, thank you, Hashem. And it made me tear. And those of, you could say people that pray at House of Torah, they know that one of the first things I say when, the Sefer Torah is picked up is, thank you, Hashem. We love you, Hashem. And I make sure to yell that at the top of my lungs because I feel like I have 35 years to make up for it.
But my rabbi says, like, you becoming on this level is much more powerful than a person who was raised into this. You know that?
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Look, I'm no angel, right?
None of us are.
I have a lot of work to do, but I think both you and I kind of walk the same footsteps, and we've progressed a lot. Thank God.
I definitely agree. It's been a journey, but I guess our fathers leaving. I mean, God made their
soul rest in peace. Yeah,
soul rest in peace, and I think they are in a better place. And here we have to do the best that we can to elevate their spirit, to live our lives the proper way, the Jewish way, and just to grow spiritually and everything that we have going on.
You grab the bull by its horns when you say that, because I know today you are the president of...
You didn't have to go there.
I mean, you can edit it out if you would like, but you are the president of, your shul, the Chevy Chase shul, and I think that speaks volume, right? I mean, I was at the barn yesterday with some of the guys from your shul, right? And I overheard a lot of the things that you guys had to deal with. And I'm like, I can't believe that Boris even has the time or the will to deal with this. I don't think I would be able to, right?
My wife did not want me to be involved because I'm already overwhelmed. I come home, I got phone calls, just, every business owner does. And it's a little overwhelming sometimes. But I guess we are here to serve the community.
Of course.
My father was also part of the community. And I don't know, it's just a thing that gets passed on.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
For you, man. Keep it up. I'm sure your father's proud.
I guess so. I don't know if he'll be happy. If he was alive and I was to say, Pop, they want to make me the president, he would be like, don't do it. That's what he would say.
With a lot of politics and headaches. And you're never the good guy,
That's what it is.
Problem. Yeah.
But I guess Hashem is with me.
For sure.
Whatever's supposed to be is going to happen.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I think you guys are doing an amazing job. I think today your shul has been the staple of Jamaica Estates, right? It really has. It's grown a lot. There's a lot of backers that are so humble in your shul that no one knows who they are, what they do.
Absolutely.
But yet they do so much and they do everything behind the scenes.
Listen, the most important thing is in every shul, if the intention and the energy is there for the right reasons, everything's going to be fine.
Agreed.
Correct?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Same thing goes for our shul today, House of Torah is building, right? House of Torah is growing. I think we have about 40 Kollel students, right?
Wow,
every single one has to be paid.
Correct.
Fortunately, since we're on the topic of doing good and doing the right thing, there's a lot of sponsors that are sponsoring these kollel boys.
Of course.
Right? There's people that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that these kids, or guys, you can say not kids, are learning Torah on our behalf. But, while we're sponsoring them, to make sure that they're coming to shul and being paid for that just to be able to survive, the one thing that we've missed as a community, in my opinion, is the fact that we're not taking care of all their other needs. And not only them, it's
we're not
other.
Superman.
So I'll tell you where I think one thing we're missing that I've been kind of but I've been leading with the help of Rabbi Davidov from House of Torah and Rabbi Hiyayev from House of Torah. We started a gamach. It's an interest-free loans, right? So
I heard about it.
It's
Okay.
great.
Yes,
It's amazing.
yes.
Look, we just kickstarted it with the help of my partners as well and my older brother Nissan. We kickstarted, and some of the guys from House of Torah have contributed as well. And I'll tell you now, there was a few scenarios where there was a guy from the community. He's been down on his luck for the past 3 or 4 years. I don't know who he is, right? But he's been down on his luck for the past 3 or 4 years, and he didn't have enough money to pay for his mortgage, right? What do we do? From the Gemach, we gave him money to pay for his mortgage. We also created or designed a payment plan for him to be able to repay us within 6 months, right?
Nice.
So that it's comfortable for him to be able to pay that. Another guy that came to us was actually a student from the kollel, right? We were smart enough to realize that he needed a sponsor to pay for his day in, day out stuff. But guess what? His car broke down, and he didn't have the money to pay for another car. The car wasn't fixable. It was that bad. But he didn't have the money to pay for another car. And he stopped coming to the kollel for about 2 days. He couldn't get there, right? He lived all the way in Long Island.
Oh, wow.
Guess what? The Gemach bought him a new car. And he is paying, we created a payment plan for him to pay our loan off within 12 months, interest-free.
Nice.
Right? And I think that things like that, with the passing of our parents and coming closer to Hashem, I think has been the staple to why we are doing what we're doing, why we continue to be successful in our businesses, why our kids are healthy, our parents are healthy, and why we're successful. I think that just doing the good every day is very important. And I think that, a Gemach, if you look at every other community, Syrian community, Persian community,
You'll have it.
Ashkenaz, they have $1 million Gemachs. They're not only helping people that are having a financial issue, but they're also helping kids pay for their student loans who are without parents. They're also helping kids start new businesses and ideas. Dude, I would pay anything if I had a backer when I just started buying real estate that would help me start buying real estate. So instead of me buying real estate, I was wholesaling real estate, right, for the good 2 or 3 years.
Correct.
Instead of making, $500,000 on a deal, I was making maybe $50,000 on a deal, right? Because I had to wholesale, I didn't have the money to buy. So you could only imagine if the Baharian community had $1 million or $10 million Gemach, which we're going to get there, I promise you that, over time. It's not going to be an overnight process. But had we had that Gemach at that time and I was able to take advantage of it, I would be much larger and I would probably be able to fund the Gemach on my own today, right? Just giving you an example. So I think putting a Gemach together while we're building all the things that we're building and we're doing so much good, I think a Gemach is critical for our community.
Very nice. Very nice. I like that idea. I had an idea also of starting like a Shark Tank in our community.
Yeah.
Investing into businesses, how do you call them?
Yeah, startups.
Yeah. And something where we get 5-6 investors.
Yeah.
We hear them out, see what they have to bring to the table, and be a part owner, connect them with the right people. What do you think of that idea?
I think that's a great idea. I was fortunate enough to go to the Baharian Congress. I know you go there very often. I know you're a lot more involved than I am. But I went to the one in Israel right after my father passed.
Nice.
It was actually 1 year yahrzeit of my father. I was like, you know what? I need to get out. Didn't go anywhere. So we went to Israel, right, for the Baharian Congress. And I think we stayed all at the Waldorf Astoria. And I remember Lev Levayev, such an amazing man. Oh, unbelievable. Such a giver. He's unbelievable.
On another level.
I remember seeing him those 3 or 4 days, and all he was doing was meeting with people that were having financial hardships.
Right.
He was meeting with people and community leaders that needed financial support. And, from what I heard from the grapevine, there were some young guys that, my age that needed financial support as well. And he was hearing their problems and giving them, I don't know if he gave them financial support, like writing out a check, but I know he gave them the network and the foundation to be able to solve their problems, right? From the grapevine, from what I heard. So I think something like that, Lev Levive has been doing an amazing job. And there's a lot of guys in our community that are doing it just as well. They're just behind the scenes. I just wish that they had some kind of group or organization, like you just mentioned, that can make it and do it more systematically, programmatically, versus having to have that one or two guys meet with these people every single day. Just like these private equity firms or these other groups are putting all this together, they do all the due diligence, and then they put a package together to present to their investor committee. We should have the same thing for our Baharian committee, right?
I don't disagree.
To be able to help the people that really need the help or the guidance. Sometimes it's not even a matter of writing a check. It's a matter of just introducing them to the right people.
I think the connection here plays a big role.
For sure. God has blessed us with so much. That's the least that all of us can do.
Tell me about it. Question, do you read any books? Are you a book reader?
I am. I'm a very big book reader, yeah.
So what is the one book that you consider an average...
Changed my life?
Yeah.
I can tell you right now. Dale Carnegie, How to Make Friends and Influence People. When I was a teenager, I was, for those that know me from my teenage life, I was a little bit of a troublemaker, right? I say it on the record, I had maybe about 6 to 8 arrests.
No way. You were arrested?
I was arrested about 6 to 8 times. From 16 to about 21 years old. 21 was the last time I got arrested. I was a little bit of a troublemaker, right? I just,
it is what it is.
It made me who I am today.
That's it.
In fact, that was a big reason why, I had to spend so much money to actually get admitted, because, when you get admitted to law, you got to give them details of what you've done, who you were, what you did, why you did it.
You can't even...
I had to spend almost $70,000 on an attorney to get me admitted, right? And there's a funny story behind that. But nevertheless, what really helped me change my life right around, I would say, 19 to about 22 years old was reading a book, like I said, by Dale Carnegie, How to Make Friends and Influence People. And I read that book probably 5 times. I should probably read it again. It's a book that really helps you understand the psychology of human beings, how to make things the right way, how to approach people the right way, how to make sure that people are comfortable with you, how to view their point before you view yours. I think that book, if anyone was to want to, read a book, is a book that must be read. Today, YouTube has summaries and shortened kind of views of the book. I would definitely recommend that book to everyone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
That's awesome.
It's a game changer.
What's the latest book you read?
The other book that I've just read is the Zeckendorf. I'm sure you're familiar with him. He's a very big developer.
Right.
The way in which he was wheeling and dealing, the way in which he bought, the UN sits in the city today. He's the one that put that deal together.
Wow.
The way in which he was putting that deal together. Another book was by the founder of Blackstone today. Really good book. I forgot the title of the book, so I think that's also another book that we should be reading.
Wow.
I'm sure you read as well.
I'm not a big reader. I like to get to the point, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I just skim through a lot of things I like to get to the point.
How do you wind down at night, though?
What do you mean?
Like, I feel like sometimes when I come home, I can't wind down. Right? Like, my brain is just racing in 1,000 places.
Yes.
The only way for me to wind down is to read a book.
For me, I get to a stage when I'm very tired and I just go
Pass
to
out.
sleep. Yeah, I mean, I have, kids, and I'm like yesterday. I was 2 of my boys were waiting for me to come home so we can play some ping pong together.
Yeah.
We have a little competition. I've trained them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the greatest, but my 10-year-old beat me for the first time yesterday
In ping pong.
in ping pong. He was so excited, and then he beat my older
Give him
son.
the chance to win, or he actually
No,
beat you in real deal?
he won. I mean, maybe I wasn't as great that moment, but
now
he-
you're making excuses.
but for him, that's a phenomenal moment right there.
Yeah.
And I told him, every time you practice,
Yeah.
you're gonna be better than me. You're gonna be better than your older brother, and watch.
Yeah.
Watch, you're gonna get there.
Keep going. Keep ramming through. Yeah.
So I tell my kids, something that you're passionate about, or if you keep practicing, you get there.
Yeah.
You just if I tell you, there's so many people that I know who are who they are today, and if they made it, I think anybody in the world can make it if you put your mind to it.
Totally. I just remembered the other titles of the other books that I just recently read. One of the other ones that I say this because I know you said before we jumped on this is I want to influence and help the younger generation
Correct.
do the right thing. So I think another book that I just read recently was by Jim Collins, How to Make a Company Great.
I think I heard about that.
Amazing book. Highly recommended. It just tells you how to structure a company, how to hire people, how to let them go, when to let them go. Don't hesitate. You got to have the right people on the bus. Another book that I'm actually reading right now is Blue Oceans. I forgot the author, the name of the book, but also a very good book. It just kind of tells you can't just compete in every business, right? Like there's every business, like our business today, the private lending space, right? While we are, I would say, one of the leaders, especially in the Bahrain community when it comes down to hard money lending, but in just the hard money lending space, the private lending space, but we're competing with everyone, right? What makes you stand out? So
Correct.
the book Blue Oceans helps you identify how to separate yourself from all your other competitors. So I think that is also very helpful for especially the guys that are just starting their businesses or thinking of starting a new business.
So if you didn't practice WeLand
Yeah.
or a lawyer,
Yeah.
what
the hell would I do?
what would you do?
Look, I think what I did, and I did it naturally. It all happened to me probably starting at 13 years old with the help of my cousin, Avi. We were buying, selling, flipping, developing real estate. In the beginning, we started wholesaling real estate because we didn't have the funds to buy real estate. And we didn't have a gamach to support me in buying real estate. We didn't have the...
See so much opportunities today, and people aren't taking advantage of it. That's what bothers me.
It's unreal, and we didn't have the... I know you mentioned the Shark Tank for the Bahraini community. We didn't have that either, right? And, I didn't really have... I have an amazing family. They're very supportive. But, when it comes down to finances, we're all immigrants, right? They did whatever they could to survive. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity in every way to do the right thing for the right people, and it's just a matter of putting those processes into place.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So what's the final message you want to tell everybody?
Reputation is everything.
I agree.
Right. Today, like I said earlier, we're managing a little over $100 million of assets today, and we wouldn't be able to raise that type of money from friends and family if my reputation or my partner's reputations or my family's reputation was not up to par.
Correct.
Or above par. And I think that, for the younger generation, you got to start thinking about your reputation from day one. Most of my investors, they know me since I'm 6 years old, since junior high school.
And they never put a thought in their mind that you were a troublemaker was going to be.
Well, they were alongside me making trouble, right? For those of you listening, they were there. We were there together. And the funny part is that what I've learned is that all the troublemakers are actually the successful guys.
Yeah.
Today. The guys that were willing to break boundaries. I don't want to say laws. We broke some laws and we did what we had to for that.
But you see, you came to
right,
it where
for sure.
Now you understand.
For sure. And I think reputation is everything. You got to protect your name. You got to protect your family's name. And you got to start building a brand from day one. I'm looking at someone like these Instagrams of these younger guys, teenagers, early 20s. They're putting things. I didn't really have Instagram in our age, right? We may have had MySpace or something.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even as developed as
popular,
Instagram is today. And I think that a lot of the guys, they're putting things on it that you just could never turn back from.
Yes.
Right?
You're 100% like the other. I'm not going to go into politics, but okay.
Brand, reputation, your family's reputation is critical. You protect it tooth and nail. You fight over it because you just never know when you're going to need to use it.
Absolutely. I tell my kids, be careful when you're speaking to somebody. Always give respect to your elders
100%.
Because you never know. Tomorrow they might be your in-laws or what.
Totally.
You never know who you get
You
to
got to
sit
be
down
careful.
at the same
you got to
table.
tread carefully when it comes down to that.
Thank God my kids are successful in that. And I mean, every time we have a walk to the synagogue, we talk, which is great. And Shabbat.
That's what makes Shabbat so special.
It's
right?
amazing.
You being able to connect with your kids.
I tell you, it's for people like us that are constantly on the phones. At
You and I are
this-
both guilty. We have our phones right on the,
Yeah.
it's on Do Not
It's-
Disturb, but
do not-
it's
it's
here,
here.
right?
I tell you, a disconnect from the world. This
Oh, yeah.
is the most amazing
You know,
thing.
you said it well. If you look at any big entrepreneur who has exited out of their company, I follow these like weird things, right? One of the other things that I follow is like the Forbes list. Is like, what background do they have? Like, where have they invested? What education do they have? And I would suggest that a lot of young kids do that as well. Is like, you look at that, and what I've learned when I was studying the Forbes list at 18, 19 years old, a lot of the guys had a college degree. A lot of the Forbes list guys, they
Correct.
had, a law degree, some kind of like major, degree. It wasn't just like a associate degree or anything like that. And all of them were in real estate, or they had some kind of allocation
Correct.
in real estate. So I think that is very, very important. Just being able to study that and being able to implement that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Mr. Ruben,
Thank
I
you
think
so
it was a
much.
pleasure. We had a great conversation here. Let's have the whole world see our podcast
Looking forward.
and see what happens then. If you like what you see, please follow Kaykov Podcast. Thank you.